Okay, this is chapter 4. This chapter is called Show Off. Why? Because Sextus is showing off. He's up in the tree. This is again Sextus who lives with the family. He's not part of the family. He's a friend of the family's son. So he tends to be a little mischievous and puckish. So he's up in a tree in this chapter, and as you can see on Cornelia's face here, he has alarmed her in some way. So the storyline will revolve around this little episode in the family. And then also the idea of direct objects will be introduced in this chapter. These direct objects, the singular forms of these direct objects do tend to end with M, as you'll see. Hopefully everybody knows what a direct object is, but if not, then I'll talk quickly about it. Transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs are followed by direct objects, and intransitive verbs have no direct objects, to put it very briefly. And then a few words about the core elements of Latin sentences. And then there is a word study at the end of this chapter, which talks about the relationship between English and Latin words, which is a reason why many students do take Latin, to sort of discover the relationship between those two. Let's not forget that English words are 60% from Latin base words. So many English words come from Latin words. The other huge chunk of English words come from German, or are of Germanic origin, but many of the more fancy words, more of the sophisticated words, come from Latin, and more of the common everyday words come from Germanic. So, for example, the word mother and father come from German, but patriarchal and matriarchal come from Latin. So there's a quick example. All right, so let's have a look. Once again, orienting yourself to the picture, what's going on. Let the picture guide you or sort of intrigue you, and that helps to sort of keep the ball rolling as you look at the chapter. I've already read some of the Latin, but I'm going to just, since it's still early in the game, I'm going to read the first paragraph here for pronunciation purposes, because pronunciation, again, is part of the class. So here goes. Sextus est puer molestus, qui semper Corneliam vexat. Cornelia igitur sextum non amat. Hodie sub arbore dormit Cornelia. Sextus puellam conspicit, et furtim appropinquat. Arborem ascendit, et subito magna voce clamat. Vocem Cornelia audit, sed sextum non videt. Magna vox, Corneliam terret, solicita est. So there's a brief introduction to the pronunciation for the chapter. Notice there are a lot of words, a lot of new vocabulary for this chapter. And again, they're listed by line number here on the sides. You see anything, if you're stuck on line 4, go down here. Now, of course, the words that you've already learned will not appear in the vocabulary, so you have to retain those chapter by chapter using flashcards, Quizlet decks, etc. So I'll take a quick look at 4A over here and over here. Maybe 2 or 3 questions from exercise 4A, and then either in this video or the next video we'll look at 4C and 4D, depending on how long this one goes. Okay, so exercise 4A, respond in Latin. So again, not translating the question, but responding in Latin. A couple of new question words here. Qualis, what sort of blank 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 dot dot dot, and quo, meaning where to. There are a few ways to say where in Latin. We've learned ubi, which means where is something at, and quo now is where is so and so, say, walking to. So quo, and then you'll see a third one, unde, which means where from. But we'll focus on this for now. Number 1, qualis puer est sextus? Qualis means what sort of. So the question is asking, what sort of a boy is Sextus? And the first line tells us the answer there. Sextus est puer molestus. Molestus means troublesome or annoying. So, in its most simple form, that would be an answer for question number one. Sextus est puer molestus. Sextus is an annoying boy. If you wanted to continue to write that out for practice, that's okay, but this is a satisfactory answer. Sextus est puer molestus. Number two, quid facit Cornelia hodie? Remember from previous chapters, quid facit means what is somebody doing? In this case, what is Cornelia doing and when? Today. So then we'll say quid facit Cornelia hodie. Cornelia, let's see. Okay, here's what Cornelia is doing. Hodie sub arbore dormit Cornelia. There's a new verb there, dormit. Perhaps you might recognize the word dormitory, which is a place where college students or I guess private high school students sleep. So dormit means she or he sleeps or is sleeping. So today, literally today, Cornelia is sleeping under the tree. Now, some of you may be saying, why is Cornelia all the way at the end of the sentence? Again, word order is a tricky thing in Latin, but it's not critical to get the word order right, at least in the initial stages of this class. So today, Cornelia is sleeping sub arbore, under the tree. I haven't been writing these out, but I think it's easy enough to copy them out or to read it carefully and come up with your own way of saying it if that's possible. For the most part, during the early chapters, you're going to sort of adhere to what the story says just to get into the groove of things. We'll do one more. Number three says, quid facit Sextus? What is Sextus doing? Or what does he do? Let's see. Sextus puellam conspicit et fortim appropinquat. So here's something that Sextus does. Conspicit is a new verb here. It means to catch sight of, or he catches sight of. So we could say that Sextus puellam conspicit. That's one possible answer to that question. What does Sextus do? He catches sight of a girl. He sees a girl. Or he sees the girl, I should say here, since we know that it's Cornelia and not just some random girl. So this, by the way, is an example of a direct object. Maybe I should just do this over here for a second. Sextus puellam conspicit. This is the subject, or Sextus is the subject of the sentence. He is the one doing the action of this verb. Sextus sees or catches sight of or spots a girl, the girl, Cornelia. So this is called a direct object. The person or place or thing that receives the action of the verb is called a direct object. Receives the action of the verb. Put that on its own line here, so that's more critical. Another couple of quick examples would be I see you, you see me. So I is the subject, the one doing the seeing is I here, but you is the thing being seen, which receives the seeing is how we say this. It receives the action of that verb. So you here is the direct object. But in this sentence, we have it flip-flopped. You are now the subject. You're the one doing the seeing. And what do you see? You see me. So those are two direct objects right there, here and here. And as was said in the beginning of the chapter, at the top of the page on the left of the very intro of the story here, those direct objects do tend to start or end with the letter M, at least for now. Well, yeah, in most cases they will end with M. Plurals will be different, but you can spot direct objects early on because they end with the letter M. So, number 3 in 4A could be, what does Sextus do today? So he does a couple of things. He catches sight of the girl. He spots the girl. He also approaches. And how does he approach? He approaches furtim, which is stealthily or secretly. And what else does he do? He climbs a tree. I'm going to put this in. There's another possibility here. Sextus arborem ascendit. Now, once again, sextus, subject. Ascendit means climbs or goes up. We obviously get the word ascend or ascent from this verb here. And what does he climb? He climbs the tree. So here we have a direct object. So if I were to sort of diagram this sentence for you, this would be the subject. This would be the direct object. And this is called a transitive verb. I think, yeah, there was mention made again here about transitive and intransitive verbs. So a transitive verb is a verb that is followed by or takes a direct object. Sextus climbs the tree. So if it has a direct object that it naturally sort of gravitates or gloms onto, that's called a transitive verb. The word trans is a Latin preposition which means across. So you could say that a transitive verb goes across to a direct object. That's the way I like to tell my kids in class anyway. So transitive has a direct object, intransitive does not have a direct object. Now an example here would be apropinquat is an intransitive verb because it doesn't have a direct object. Well, unless we say he approaches the girl, then if you read this sentence that way, he approaches the girl, then this would be a transitive verb. But let's look at the next sentence. He climbs the tree and suddenly, subito, he cries out, he shouts in a loud voice. So he doesn't shout something like shouts is a tough verb to make transitive because you don't shout something. I guess you can shout a shout. In that case, then I guess you could say that clamat would be a transitive verb. But here he shouts out, or he shouts in a loud voice. Now, in a loud voice is not the same thing as a direct object. If for it to be a direct object, you have to shout something. So, direct object. Think of verbs like seeing, or think of like hitting. Usually, you hit something. So, hitting is very often a transitive verb. But shouting, you can shout like the boy shouts, and he's not shouting some particular thing. So in that case, it's called an intransitive verb. Intransitive verbs have no direct object. Now, forgive me for going on here. Maybe most of you have a clear understanding of what a direct object is or what a transitive or intransitive verb is, but this is for the benefit of those who do not. So you can always skip around during the videos, I suppose. So anyway, that's 4A. I'll stop there, and then in the next video we'll do 4C and 4D, which will be core elements, identifying core elements like subjects, transitive verbs, complements, linking verbs, direct objects. And 4D, again, is give the Latin for these English sentences. So we'll take a look at that in the next video.